Why, hello there, everyone. Now, this has been the most stressful 2 weeks of my entire life, all because of this one damn feature, the lock on feature. Now, locking on is very important. I could go on and on about it. How entirely the Souls like genre as a whole relies on it. Locking on enemies so you don't hit air. Of course, that doesn't really stop people from forgetting how to do it, but either way, it is essential. And how would anyone go about doing this in terms of in Godot is beyond me, but it's also on me to find out. So I'm gonna say this right now: I didn't find out shit. I've been I spent one half of last weekend just researching and trying to find any clue as to how I would even begin to implement this sort of feature. However, the sources that I looked at and the videos I looked at, the videos were too complicated, and the sources, like on the forums and on Reddit and all those sources, were too big for me to even apply it to my game. So I'm sort of just stuck with my own knowledge on how to do this. It's going to be difficult, and it was difficult. No matter how you spin it, it's always the simplest things that are easily the hardest to implement whenever it comes to game development. But I couldn't let that stop me. I had to. This is a game idea that I need to execute on because if I don't, I'm probably going to fall into the irrelevant zone, which, to be honest, I already am. But I like to think that I'm not. And yeah, really, my solution for this lock-on feature was to just have the camera face whatever it is that the player is targeting. I was also going to put a lock on indication, but that didn't really work out. So I'll have to flesh that later. But as you can see, if we walk towards the enemy, the camera will kind of, rotate and zoom in or zoom out depending on that. I want the camera to maybe zoom out a bit more accurately as to what I'm thinking. So I want to have it sort of to the side a little bit, be able to zoom out and in depending on how far the enemy is. But your boy doesn't know how to code that, so we're just going to move on. Before we do get started on other matters, I would like to show you a few failed attempts by me to apply a lock-on feature. Now, there is still a multitude of stuff within this prototype that'll need to be fleshed out later, but as of right now, I want a better enemy functionality because having an enemy that just kind of stands there striking a pose after each attack is, to be honest, doesn't really show my vision that well, and it's also kind of creepy. So, with that, I got back to work on making an enemy that moved towards us as well as attack us when close enough. This really consisted of creating an area that represent if the player is in the area, it attack, and if not, it idle or just begin walking towards them. It looks a bit stale without animation, so I'll need to do those later. And I also have to have the enemy look at the player while, walking because right now So, another thing about this lock-on thing is the fact that I had to manually rotate the player using this magic number of degrees or radians or whatever in order to get the player to properly face the enemy. It was I thought I'd have to do the same for this instance in this situation. However, it wasn't in actuality the solution. Even though I manually rotated the enemy, it was still sidestepping towards the player. So the real solution was to just rotate the enemy visual in the node, which, very, very confusing, but it managed to work. So I'm just going to leave it there and move on. I tweaked a bit of the parameters, added animations, and now we're good. It looks a lot better. And even though it doesn't look as good as I want it to be, it's still just a prototype. It'll be improved over time. I promise. Of course, the combat will definitely need more work as it feels very stale, locking on barely helps, and playing on the keyboard sucks. So I'll need to implement gamepad functionality. It gave me a much needed break to focus on some other things that I really need to focus on, catch up on a bit of sleep, you know. But I'm glad to be back, and that's about it. So have a wonderful day. And with the enemy ready to follow, I kind of got sidetracked. I decided to have a little bit of fun with it.